Hey all, so today I wanted to share what the character art pipeline looks like for my upcoming indie MMO called Eldevar Online. So to start off, all of the characters are made up of modular pieces. I believe there's 16 total pieces. There's head, chest, shoulders, forearms, pelvis, thighs, shins slash knees, and then feet. And then that's assembled into a rig. And then there's only two facing directions, so left and right, but the character's positioned at kind of like a 45-degree angle, so it looks like the character is either facing southeast or southwest, which I think kind of helps sell the depth a little bit more, so the character is not just flat on the screen. So there's two reasons why I went with the modular design. The one is if you want any kind of character customization in 2D, animating that is very difficult if you go with a traditional sprite sheet approach. Because if you think about it, you need an animation combination for essentially every piece of equipment. You know, there's ways around it where you can do like the animations are hand-drawn, but then you do a skeleton for the armor, but then it just never really looks right, and it's hard, and you need to change up animation slightly. So, you know, for customizability in 2D, the real affordable approach is to just do it modular like how I did. And then also the other kind of drawback that I have is only the two facing directions. The issue is if you decide to go four directions, your art explodes instantly. So instead of just needing one piece of or one facing direction, you need three facing directions now. You need north, south, and then left, and then you can mirror that right. And then if you go 8 directions, so the cardinals and then the southeast, southwest, blah blah blah, you need 5 pieces of art. So you need north, south, a left piece, and then one facing northeast, and then one facing southeast. Then you can mirror both of those. And then what I do, and it's going to be hard to tell, but I kind of try to fake perspective. So every direction, so there's still 8 directions behind the scenes, right? So there's still a north, northeast, west, southwest, etc. And the walk animation changes subtly between what direction you're heading. To kind of fake it just a little bit that there's a little bit more depth. And I can actually demo that in-game here. Okay, so now that we're in-game, you can see here, so this is the left walking animation, the right walking animation. Obviously there's subtle differences, right? But then the big ones are the north animation. There's kind of like a little bit of a wobble in it, and then the south kind of does the opposite just to sell. And then the cardinals as well. Or sorry, the northeast, the southeast, and whatnot, they change just ever so slightly, just in the way the legs bend, just to sell it. And then also the other thing I do is I reset the animation. So if you change directions, it resets the animation, right? So it's not like you're just walking in one direction, your character's moving, just playing the same animation. So you can actually kind of feel it jerk a little bit, which I think helps kind of sell that you're actually changing directions, right? Even though you're technically not. So covering equipment now, because I think this is the bigger portion of it. So the way that it works is the armor sits, there's a helm slot, there is a chest slot which covers the chest and the chest and the shoulders. There's a glove slot which covers the forearms. The legs will cover the thighs, the pelvis, the shins, and then the boots obviously cover the feet. So that's how it's broken up. It's not, armor isn't as modular, or rather the pieces are still drawn modular, but in game they're kind of assembled into complete sets. So you can see here, for example, if I pick like the junk leather chest, this one even comes with gloves, right? So actually that's probably something that we'll need to break out. Some of the armor pieces are kind of like that, right? Where if we go that it already comes with the sleeves. Robes should come with the chest, the arms, and then the pelvis, because it doesn't super make sense to have a robe that's just like the robe top. You can see it though, the armor is broken out into a bunch of like little tiny pieces, right? And it can kind of be mixed and matched and assembled like that. Not all of these, I guess, are perfectly set up. If I show in game, actually, what I'll do is I'll run a performance test. I'll get that all set up, and then you can actually see what the armor looks like on other players. I think that'll help show a little bit better what it actually looks like. Okay, so while we're waiting for the bots to come in, you can kind of see it here because the NPCs are assembled the exact same way as the players are, so it's just different pieces of armor layered on top of them. So you can see here, this is a townsman, this is a guard, so he has all the different pieces. Okay, and here's our players spawning in, so now you can kind of get a better idea of what the actual equipment looks like on everyone because the editor is a little bit buggy. So you can see all the different pieces. They kind of mix and match together really well, just because that's how they're drawn. So the pieces can be, assembled and match, which is nice for reusability. Because you can get some cool combinations where you get like a plate body with then a robe bottom. You can get kind of a leather body with male leggings, which kind of give you the idea of like a bruiser. So just it's kind of nice for the way the armor is drawn, is it kind of sits nicely in a bunch of different combinations, so it doesn't look awkward or you need to have like the full set for it to look good together. So the dude who did the character art did a really, really good job with all of that, drawing the pieces so they just work together. Okay, cool. So just covering some of the random quadrupes that I have. So this is a donkey. It's actually a mount. Maybe I can show mounts at the end here just to show what that looks like in game. This is probably the most complicated asset that we have, is the dragon. It's 23 parts, I believe. So the dragon itself is like 23 parts, I believe. The tail is like 6 separate parts. The body. There's a ghost. This guy's busted, but he just doesn't have legs. The horse, which should have this model. So this is a mount. So again, it's the same as the donkey, right? I'll show that in game. This is our Ent boss. So it's all the same modular pieces for all of these. So you have the forearms, shoulders, thighs, shins. Actually, this guy doesn't have a pelvis, but just because of how he was drawn. Our goblins, which these are 64 by 64, so they're a little bit smaller. We have our ogre here, which actually isn't properly assembled and actually looks like it's loading in the right pieces. So going through and assembling that would look kind of something like this, where you go through and drag all the pieces around and then put it together, and then the actual rig. The rig's not super set up properly, but you can kind of see that's what the assembly process would look like to actually put this together. We have our wolves, our 64 by 60 or 64 by 48 quadrupes, so you can see kind of the different skins that we have here for the wolves. It's the same thing, right? Everything goes kind of off the base skin, and then we just reskin it on top of it. And then we have our bears here. Same thing. So we have our standard forest bear, disease variation, plague variation. Actually, for our quadrupes as well, we have a saber tooth, which is a little buggy. There we go. So we have our spider. This is actually a really complicated rig too. Looking at it, it's a bunch of really tiny pieces to get it moving. Let me do... I don't have spider walk in the editor, that's fine. I can show what that looks like in game too, because they're pretty complicated. But yeah, that is like kind of what the character art pipeline looks like. It is a lot of separate pieces, so just as an example, if I go through the assets folder and just demo this, so you can see here everything is broken up into like little pieces. So for example, if I go to forearm, you're just going to find forearm pictures in here. If I go to head, you're just going to find helmets in here. Weapon, it's all of our weapons, right? So that's kind of how it's broken up, and then all the pieces are loaded by a rendering engine, and then it gets assembled in game. So you can see here, right, here's all the different forearms for the humans. They're assembled the same way, and then there's the different skin tones in there. If I go to look at all the pelvises, here's all of the female human pelvises. So that's what those look like. And then if I go and show the dragon, so like here's an example of the tail, right, for the dragon. There's the 6 or 7 pieces. The wing pieces in here, and then there's 2 variations of the dragon. There's our default dragon and then our forest dragon. So yeah, that's kind of just what the file structure looks like for that. And then really quickly, I'll just hop in game and then show the spiders, because I think it's just kind of interesting, and then also the mounts. Okay, so hopping in game, just I guess a quick overview. The mount system is very similar to World of Warcraft, where you collect mounts. What I'm thinking about doing is having it so the actual horse is kind of upgradable, so there are going to be different skins. You can get armor on it, maybe like even a talent tree in the future for the horse. Animations still need work, obviously, but that's kind of the idea behind mounting, right? Is just you ride it. The donkey is the starter mount, the horse is the slightly better mount. It goes a little bit faster. And I guess just while I'm running over to show the spiders, just so you can kind of get an idea, right? Here's a wolf, here's a bear, and then our spiders here. So the animations are still, they need a little tweaking, the rigs and whatnot. I just haven't had the time to really clean it up. And then up here as well, I can just show this. So this is the Ent boss right up here. So you can see this is kind of how he's assembled and how the animations work. There is a shader on the limbs. It's not enabled for everything, but to kind of blend the joints a little bit. To help it look just a little bit more appeared. But yeah, so that is kind of what the character art pipeline looks like. It is a lot of assets. I think for 23 sets of armor, for example, we're looking at like 150 or 200 individual pieces, and then the weapons on top of it, and then assembling it on top of skins, right? So there's a lot of individual pieces that go into it. But playtest is starting soon, so if this game looks interesting, it's something that you're interested in being involved with, definitely leave a comment, let me know. But otherwise, I appreciate you all for watching, and hopefully see you in the next one.